Hey everybody, what's going on? I'm going to be doing a tutorial today on how to be tying a articulated Buford. It's basically just a Buford fly with a little 40 millimeter big game shank up front, and we're going to be doing an exact copy of this fly today, except we're going to make a little variation here. We're going to do a little bit of red, classic Northwoods color, yellow in the back with a red head. This platform's tied on an Arex PR320 Predator Stinger 6/0, and tied that all the way up to the eye with one little 40 millimeter shank up top for a little bit of wiggle, lots of movement in the water. So let's put one in the vise and let's spin it up. So we're starting off with these hooks right here. So I really like this hook. It's really stiff and holds well. Let's go ahead and capture our thread in. We'll start that up here. I'm going to run that all the way down to the barb. Doesn't have to be pretty. But over top of this, we're going to come with just a little bit of glue. Let's trim off our excess thread. And just put a real thin glue layer down here. That ought to do it. And go back up. Now with these hooks, I like to start my tie-in point right at the hook point, right there. So what I normally do with my Bufords, I'll take some of this 5 to 7 inch long schlappen and I'll run those in tandem going down the back of the hook. Let's pick off 2 feathers that are somewhat similar in length. And we're just going to put one on one side and the other on the other side. Let's run those in tandem down the back. Tie that in like that. And we'll put one on the other side. Cut my thread. Those hook points are sharp, so be careful. Since I did that, I'm going to put a little bit of glue on my thread, and I'm going to wrap over top of where I broke that, just to make sure it's nice and locked in so it won't come undone. Alright, so my Bufords, I always start them out kind of like a deceiver. Just adds a little bit more stability in the back, I think. Next we're going to come in, we're done with that 5 to 7 inch slopping, so I'm going to go ahead and pack that away because I don't need it. Keep your bench free of clutter. So alright, next we'll come in with about a pencil width of bucktail in yellow. Just about that much, and then we can flick out the loose fibers, the guard hairs, pull them out, just like that. Now we're not going to reverse tie this in, we're just going to stack it going back. I'm going to pull those butt ends up here. I'm going to pull those up, try to lock them all in. Then I'm going to trim off all this excess right here. And by holding them like that on top of the shank, they've rotated around 3/4 of the way. There's nothing on the bottom here, so we got a little gap right there, but it's on the top and the sides, and that's what I want. Put a little bit of glue in there. Super glue is your friend when tying big musky flies. Alright, next I'm going to come in with some of this crinkle flash. I got this from Orvis. Forget exactly what they call it, but it's got crinkle flash and tinsel holographic flash all on it, so it's really cool. So I'm going to pinch off, maybe 20-30 strands. Cut that. And then I'm just going to lay this straight over top, just like that. I'm going to roll it around just a bit, and then capture that in. Trim off your excess. Alright, I'm going to take one of my clamps, little clips here. I'm going to move all this stuff backwards, clip it down, get it out of my way. Glue your thread. Now we're going to lay some of those big long schlappen feathers in there. So pick out a couple. Sometimes they're hard to pull out of the clump, so cut them if you have to. Gotta find just the right ones. And then work them out. I might have to cut them. Bind these things up really tight sometimes, and they won't pull out of the clump. So I'll set that color aside. Alright, I'll start on your side first. I'll capture that on the side, just like that. Strip the stem a little bit. I'm going to put this one on the top. I'm going to bend that stem up, trim it, and then I'm going to lay a feather down on my side. Okay, looking good. Then next, I'm going to come in with some barred red schlappen, kind of match the head. Just two feathers. Glue it all down in a minute. Trim off any excess stems that you might have outside your thread wraps. Okay, I'm done with that color. Now we're going to take some of that barred grizzly yellow that we have and put a couple of those down. Bend those stems up, trim them back. Alright, we've got all of our tail feathers in place. It's looking good. And now I'm going to take a couple of pieces of red crystal hackle. And I'm going to go down the side. That's about 8 pieces. So I'm just going to hold it in the center. And I'm going to trim it. Run these down the length of one side. Gather up the other pieces. Then we're going to run those down the other side. I'm going to trim all this up. Okay. And then, to set off those yellow feathers, we're going to take some crystal hackle and gold. About the same amount. Pulled off too much there. So I'm going to trim that in half. I'm going to run this down the sides. And you don't have to put this crystal flash on there. It's just, I like it. I think it looks nice. The way you build your fly is entirely up to you. All personal preference. It's the platform that works, the Buford platform. And then every fly tyer, every artist is going to have his or her variations that they use on these patterns. So it's up to your interpretation as to how you want it to look. So now we're going to glue all that in. Okay, ready for our first reverse wrap now. I'll grab a clump of bucktail and lemon. Okay, I forgot to show you this. I've got lemon here, and then I have Northwoods yellow here. Can you see the difference in shades? Should be able to see. This one's a little lighter color. This is more of a deeper yellow right here. Pull those guard hairs out. And we are reverse tying this. I'll stack that there. 3 loose wraps and then pull tight. Now what I like to do, if you've seen any of my fly tying videos, all these butt ends here that flare out, I always trim those off. So it just helps you stack it better. I'm going to build up that thread dam right there in front of the reverse stack. Okay, and I'm going to clip this stuff down so I can glue it without getting glue all over my bucktail. Alright, got that finished up. Now we're going to bring our thread forward just a bit, about right there. Then I'm going to put my next section in right there. And we're going to reverse stack this on as well. I'm going to alternate colors between this lemon and the Northwoods yellow. About a pencil width. Flick out the guard hairs, pull them out. And basically the same process. Three loose wraps, and then pull tight. It'll spin just like that. Then I'm going to come in there, remember, and I'm going to trim off all those butt hairs that flared out, because I don't want those compressing that last reverse stack that I just laid down before this one. If you don't trim them, they will compress it. They act kind of like a cone, if you will, and it compresses the last section inwards, and we don't want that. We want it to flare out as much as possible. Now what I do after every other section of bucktail that we reverse tie in here, I'll put in some crystal flash in front of that on top of this thread dam just to make it pop a little bit. And I usually just use pearl. I don't use any other color but that. Gives it a very natural look, and it can enhance pretty much any color that you're using as far as the bucktail goes. And with this, what we're going to do, we're going to hold it in half like this. We're going to pull our, well, let me clip this bucktail out of the way. And what I'll do is I'll come and pull that around the thread, and we'll just try to roll that straight on top, just like so. You see how when you let that go, it rolls and it lays right in with the bucktail. But before we move forward with that, I gotta glue it down. Don't forget your glue, it's very important. Alright, remember we're gonna finish wrapping this up, and we're gonna pull our thread wraps up just a little bit. You want to tie this bucktail in too close to one another, because then your fly is going to be way too dense. And you don't want that. So now we're going to go back to the yellow, lemon, I guess, name of this color. About a pencil width section. Stack it on top, 3 loose wraps, let go of it as you pull tension around, and it will roll, just like that. Remember to trim these off. Use your thumbnail or your fingernails to really cram that stuff backwards and try to get a nice tight fold on your reverse wrap. Build up that thread dam where it looks kind of like a cone holding that bucktail in place. Glue up. Get those wraps sealed up. Alright, now I got space for one more wrap. Typically I have a formula with my Buford flies. I only like to tie in 4 sections of bucktail reverse wrapped. There's 5 sections total. One is already going backwards, so it's a forward wrap facing the rear of the hook, and the other 4 are reverse wrapped. I've learned in the past not to put too much bucktail on these flies, because you will negate the action that they're famous for if they're too dense with bucktail, and you basically just wasted materials. Let's pack it back tight. Got my finger on the hook there. Didn't feel too good. Alright, since this is the 4th and final section of reverse wrapped bucktail on this hook, I'm going to put A little bit of crystal flash there. Every other section I add that crystal flash. And like I said before, this is just my way I do this pattern. You know, it's up to you. You don't have to add it. But it's my take on the pattern. My personal preference, I like to add this every other wrap. All right, move that back. Then I'm going to finish it off with some glue and some couple of whip finishes. Whip finish tool time. That's done. There's your back section. And you know, you could actually fish this fly like it is. If I were to fish this fly like it was, and this is all that I was making on this, I'd obviously make the head a little bit cleaner. But we're going to be adding a shank right there. So one of these guys right here. Yeah. And that is this. It's a 40mm big game shank by Flyman Company. Blaine chocolate design. It just goes in just like that. We'll release our hook. So that's the back section of the fly. Looking pretty damn sexy already. That looks good. So then we need to adjust our jaws a little bit to allow for the narrower shank to fit in there. Put that down, lock it in, and then bigger clip. We're going to hold our tail section on top of the rotary arm to kind of keep it out of the way. I'm going to lay down a little bit of glue on top of the shank here. Just keep the thread in place. Wrap that back up. One thing I've noticed on these big game shanks here is that right here at the end of this section and the beginning of this section where the loops stop, that will cut your thread. So you gotta be careful with those. You gotta be careful. I like to do diagonal thread wraps in front of those just to kind of keep them from cutting my thread up. Preventative measure, if you will. All right, I'm ready for our first section. I'm going to bring it in just a little bit so I have room to tie it on and then push it back so it won't fall all the way back here. So if you tie it in, that first section on the shank here, if you tie it in right here, when you go to stack it back, you'll actually slide it back a little bit, which is not what we want. We want this hook eyelet and the shank here to have freedom of movement, so they're not kinked and they'll swing freely. So that's why I bring this forward about 1/8 of an inch, 2/8, 3/8, whatever. Just give yourself a little bit of space. That's the point I'm trying to make to you. So we finished up with Northwoods Yellow. I'm going to start this section off with the lemon. About a pencil width. And we flick the guard hairs loose, pull them out. And lay those down. Now sometimes with these shanks, since they're not just one solid shank, you know, they've got two sections basically, where they bend over top of themselves on the ends. Your bucktail's not going to want to roll around, so you kind of have to force it sometimes, which is okay. And I'm going to trim these up just a little bit. I don't want to trim them flush, your first section, so just shape them up a little bit. Push it back, lock it in. This is by far my favorite color combo, just yellow. Not even really a combination. I mean, I guess we're doing a combo today with a little bit of red in there. But just solid yellow flies, man. They are extremely effective in clear water, tannic water, stained water. They work. They draw a lot of attention. I guess because that predator sees a little Tweety bird struggling in the water and it just wants to crush it. So got to glue that in. And we're going to bring our thread wrap up just a little bit. Okay. And go back to our Northwoods Yellow. About a pencil width. Lay that on. Now I'll show you this. It didn't roll all the way around. So you can probably see that little bitty gap right there. Okay. All you gotta do is help it around. Give it a little bitty hand. There you go. Told you. Cut my thread on that section. Well, better you guys see it now so you can see how to fix it. It happens, especially with these shanks, man. Those little pieces there are sharp. Alright, we gotta glue that up. Alright, I think we're in good shape. That's fine. So I'll put the clamp back on, a little clip that out of the way. We're going to lay down some more pearl in that yellow. Try to lay that down, move it around where it's on the top and the sides, but not the bottom. That's good. Bring the thread forward a little bit. Go back to lemon yellow. Help it around if it doesn't roll. Build up your thread dam. Now here's what I like to do when I'm finishing these flies up. I'll take a little bit of saddle, grizzly saddle. Then I'll just pick off 2 little feathers to act as fins up here. And we'll run those down either side of the fly. Now see, if you hold them back to back, they'll flare out like this. So that's how you want to fashion them on the hook. So make sure they flare outwards. Strip this down a little bit. just like that. See how they're flaring out? I'm going to glue it. Lock it in with glue. And we're almost done. Got one little mini section of bucktail to reverse tie in. And we're going to pick red for that. Okay? Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. Just a little bit. About half of what you've been using. Just a tiny little section. Little bit. It's about half of what we've been using. There's a nice little contrast up there. Okay, I'm going to glue that up. And we're ready to make our head now. And with the Buford heads, I like to use body hair. I don't like to use belly hair. It's often too short, and it has a tendency to be really fragile. Your thread can cut it. So I use body hair. I think it's a little bit more durable and slightly longer. So offers better aesthetics and looks, in my opinion. So I'm going to cut off about a pencil width of the body hair clump. And I have a comb somewhere on my bench. I don't know what the hell happened to it. So I'll just flick this out. Get all those guard hairs out of there. All right, we're going to lay that down. Three loose wraps before you pull tension. Then it will just roll and spin just like that. It makes a nice little pom-pom. Almost looks like a badminton shuttlecock that you use for badminton. It's an interesting name. And we're going to pull all that back, wrap, and continue to pack. Pack these heads tight if you can, but typically I only do one section, one clump of hair. I don't do multiple clumps unless you're doing different colors, of course. All right, see if I can find my clips. We'll just have to roll with it, I guess. Oh, here it is. All right, before I whip finish and glue, I'm going to try to cut off all these excess fibers here that can get trapped in the wraps. I don't want that. All right, that's it. I'm going to trim that up just a little bit. All right, that's it. There you go. Nice wiggly bobbly head right there. And yeah, I hope the video was helpful to you. And if you liked it, awesome. Check out my other videos. This is a very effective pattern up north. So give it a nice little finishing touch here with the scissors. Alright, yeah, that's it. Articulated Buford on Ahrex Predator 6/0 with the 40mm Flyman big game shank up front. So, anyways. That's it, guys. Alright. Happy hunting. I hope the video was great for you, and if you learned something awesome. So, that's it. That's all I got. See you next time.